Hello. So this chapter is called Clyde, Chapter 23. All right, here we go. I didn't sleep well that night. I had a nightmare about my mother sitting in a cage at the zoo surrounded by laughing hyenas and calling for me to help her. Austin woke me when he knocked on my door at 7. I answered the door, still in my pajamas. He was dressed for school. "What's up?" I asked groggily. "Not you," he said. "My mom told me to get you for breakfast." I rolled my eyes. "Okay, I'll be right there." I went back to my room and put on my robe. Then I walked down the hall to the Lisses and I let myself in. Breakfast was on the table and Austin and his father were already eating. Mrs. Liss had made wheat toast with a fried egg in the middle. Mr. Liss was reading the paper and dipped it a little to look at me. "Good morning, Michael." "Good morning," I replied. "That's your plate," Austin said. I sat down next to him. At the sound of my voice, Mrs. Liss came out of the kitchen. "Good morning, honey. How did you sleep?" "Not very well." "That's understandable. You just made yourself right at home." I poured myself a glass of orange juice. There were hash browns too, Austin said, pushing a plate my way with cheddar. "Thanks. Is there anything else you want?" Mrs. Liss asked. "Do you need some ketchup or Tabasco sauce for your egg?" "No, I'm good," I said. Mr. Liss glanced at his watch and set down his paper. "I've got to go." He stood looking at us. "You boys take it easy." Mr. Liss had an unusually deep voice that made everything he said sound like an order. "Yes, sir," I said. "See you, Dad," Austin said. Mr. Liss grabbed his jacket and keys from the counter, kissed Mrs. Liss, and walked out. When he was gone, Mrs. Liss said, "I forgot the salt and pepper." She walked back into the kitchen. Austin said in a hushed voice, "I wish I could go with you to the police station." "Me too." "Are you nervous to see him?" "Yeah." I took a drink of juice. Mrs. Liss walked back in. "Here you go, darling." She salt and peppered my egg for me, even though I didn't want it. "So, Michael, do you feel up to going to school today?" "Not yet," I said. "Lieutenant Lloyd is going to pick me up at 10. We're going down to the station to talk to the man they put in jail." Her brow furrowed. That means frowned. "Oh, I didn't know that. Would you like me to go with you?" "No, I'll be all right." How are you on clothes? Do you need some laundry done?" "I'm okay for now." The truth was, I'd been wearing the same clothes for 3 days. "Well, whatever you need, just ask. I'll just be with your mama until your mama gets back." "Okay," I said, grateful for how she said it. Austin finished eating, and when he went and got his backpack, "I better get going." I walked to the door with him. "Good luck," he said. "Bones." "Bones," I replied. We bumped fists, and then he walked down the hallway. "Thank you for breakfast, Mrs. Liss." "You're welcome. Please let me know when you get back from the police station." "Sure thing." I went back to my apartment and showered and dressed. Then it was time to go outside in the parking lot to wait. I was sitting on the curb when Lieutenant Lloyd pulled up in his police cruiser. He rolled down his window. "Good morning, Michael." The morning sun was high above the mountains, and I shielded my eyes with both my hands. "Hi. How are you?" I shrugged. I know he was just being friendly, but it was kind of a stupid question. "I've been better." He nodded sympathetically. "Come sit in the front seat." I climbed into the car, put on my seatbelt, and we drove downtown. The drive to the jail took about 20 minutes. I was ticking a lot. Lieutenant Lloyd didn't say anything about it, but I'm pretty sure he noticed because he asked me again if I was really wanted to do this. I guess taking a minor into the jail is pretty unusual, and he was probably having second thoughts about it. I told him I was positive it was the right thing. When we arrived at the jail, I went through all the security, metal detectors and all. then followed Lieutenant Lloyd down a long corridor, passing police officers on the way. At the end of the hall were 2 doors. He led me through the door on the left and into a darkened room. "This is the observation room," he explained. "This is where we watch what's going on in the interrogation room." There was a large 2-way mirror, as well as 2 monitors mounted on a console. The gunman, Clyde, was sitting in a chair on the other side of the glass, his hands handcuffed behind his back. Seeing him filled me with anger. "This is Detective Moore," Lieutenant Lloyd said, gesturing to the man sitting in front of the bank of monitors. "He'll be recording everything." I turned back. You record what happens inside?" "Every word," he said. I hadn't thought about that. I wouldn't be able to speak freely. Lieutenant Lloyd looked into my eyes. "You're still sure you want to do this?" "I'm sure," I said. "You're a brave young man," he said. Okay then. We have Stuart in handcuffs, but if you feel threatened at all, let me know." He patted his gun belt. "I have my taser." Me too, I thought. "I'm ready." As we started to walk out, I brushed the recording console and pulsed. Suddenly, all the screens in the room went blank. "Wait," Murr said. We just sat down. Lieutenant Lloyd groaned. What timing? It's like we got a power surge or something," Detective Murr said, flipping a few switches. He spent the next 5 minutes trying to get them back up. Finally, Lieutenant Lloyd asked, "Does the phone still work?" "Yes." "We'll use the intercom on it. We won't be able to tape it, but at least we'll hear what's going on." We walked back out to the hallway. Lieutenant Lloyd unlocked and opened the interrogation room door, and we stepped in. The room was rectangular with bar white cinder block walls. Clyde sat at the opposite end of a long wooden table. He wore an orange jail jumpsuit with the name Stuart and a number printed on the left, above the left breast. "Hello, Clyde," Lieutenant Lloyd said. Stuart didn't look at Lieutenant Lloyd, but glared at me. "I'm sure you remember who this is." He said nothing. "Let me help you remember. This is Michael Bay. He's the son of the woman you helped kidnap." He scowled. "I know who he is." "Good, because you owe him an explanation." Clyde turned his body sideways. "I don't owe him nothing." Lieutenant Lloyd shook his head. He whispered to me, "Like I said, he's not cooperating. Maybe if I talk to him alone." He thought about it for a moment, then said, "I was afraid it might come to that." He walked up to Clyde. "I'm leaving Michael alone with you. Don't try anything crazy." Suddenly, Clyde's expression changed from anger to fear. "No! You can't leave me alone with... No, you can't leave him alone with me. I have rights against cruel and inhumane punishment. I have rights." Lloyd looked at him like he was crazy. "I was saying I'm leaving him alone with you, but I'm watching you carefully through the glass, so don't get any ideas." Lieutenant Lloyd turned back to me and shook his head. "Be careful," he whispered. "The man's nutty as a bag of trail mix. Good luck." When the door shut, Clyde looked up. He looked up at me, and our eyes met. "Where's my mother?" His lips pursed. I stood up and took a few steps toward him. I knew the police were listening, so I chose my words carefully. "Do you need something to jog your memory?" "You stay away from me, electric boy." "What did you call me?" "I know all about your kind. Your glowing freaks." "My kind?" He scowled. "Yes, your kind." For the first time, I noticed the scars running up and down his arm. He followed my gaze and looked back at me. "Yeah, that's from you, one of you. Your glows are all alike." "How many are there of us?" "Too many. One of you is too many." "I only did what I did because you pulled a gun on my mother. You made me do it." "That's because they made me do it." "Who made you?" He didn't answer. "You know, I can reach you from here," I said, which wasn't true, but he didn't know. know it. He sneered at me and said, hatch. What's a hatch? Hatch is a what, you idiot. He's a who. Who's Hatch? He didn't answer. Is Hatch the guy with the sunglasses? They're not sunglasses. It's how he sees the glows. He said the word as if it were bitter in his tongue. What's a glow? You're a glow. Who were those other two kids with him? Glows, Zeus, and Nichelle. I saw what Zeus does, but what does Nichelle do? She's Hatch's protection against glows. His face bent in the dark grin. Oh, you're going to like her. Trust me. She's the nastiest of the whole stinking, nasty bunch of you. How long have you known about me? Since you were a baby. They just couldn't find you and that other. I guessed he was talking about Taylor. Where is she? You have to ask Hatch. Where did you take my mother? How did you know that? They left me. Where did they plan to take my mother? You'll never find her, he said, and a dark smile crossed his face. You had no idea what you're up against, glowworm. They have private jets and hidden compounds. They're all over the world. Your mother could be anywhere by now. Where's Hatch? He looked away. Where's Hatch? I said louder. I began rubbing the table. Do you need?
Hello. Hi.
Yep.
I'm just going to take 2 of these.